So I think we tried to do a little thought experiment of like, if we were trying to sell books, what would $10,000 worth of graded comic books look like? And when you think that in your mind, you're like a big, huge stack. But it only turned out to be less than 10 books.
Less than 10 books.
Less than 10 books.
Right.
So let's look at what the 10 books are. All right, so, and I think in looking at these 10 books, I think it's also kind of a good way to see what's popular in the comic market, what's sustained in the comic book market, because I think there are some books that like, and I think there's enough of a cross-section here that you'll see the differences in what people collect.
Right.
So let's start with a classic. Again, the first appearance of Dr. Octopus, Amazing Spider-Man number 3, 1963, signed by the incredible Stan Lee. So obviously, this is the most expensive book in this pile. It would sell for around $3,500, $3,500.
I'm gonna make sure to put some sort of like little caption right here somewhere.
So we're 35% there with one book.
Okay.
All right.
Amazing,
pun intended. So it's almost like we're moving through time because, we talk about 1963. 10 years later, 1973, this book is 50 years old. As old as me, actually. This is Batman 251. This book has no real significance other than the incredible cover. This incredible cover by Neil Adams, the late, great Neil Adams, is maybe, people might argue, might be one of the top 10 DC comic covers of all time. And right there is his signature. And that signature tacks on an extra $750 to this book. So this book right now would sell for $2,600.
Wow.
$2,600 with this signature.
Can you show the back real quick?
Absolutely. And we go to the back. Look at the classic ads for a BB gun. This classic BB gun ad. And I mean, no, I think this is really tragic. We're laughing, but like this looks like a school.
Oh my goodness, it is a school.
What I mean? Getting a Daisy BB gun is like getting a good grade.
You have to work for it.
You have to work for it.
America.
Yeah, as a teacher. Wait. The BB gun every boy dreams about.
Wow.
This is ridiculous and insane. And as a teacher, I'm borderline offended by this. The third book, we're going to jump ahead in time. We saw classics like Batman and Spider-Man. But now we have Gwen Stacy's Spider-Gwen. Let's take it out of the bag. This is 2014, the first appearance of Spider-Gwen. This book right here will be worth $1,300 at a 9.8. Again, I've loved all the two Spider-Verse movies. Spider-Gwen has been a super popular character, and again, $1,300 is nothing to sniff at, but it is not like any of those big boys like Dr. Octopus or Batman and the Joker.
So we've seen a 3.5, we've seen a 9.2, and we're seeing a 9.8. What would be like? Is that like the highest score? Maybe you can explain the grades a little bit.
The highest score, super rare, is a 10.0. This is all on a scale of 10. 10.0. You can find it in some what they call square-bound books, but 9.8 is usually where people kind of stop. 9.9 is also super rare. But a 9.8 means like, okay, this book is pretty pristine mint. And what does that basically mean? It means that this book is as close to what it would look like if it came right off the printing press. No folds, no tears, no wrinkles. We've got another book right here. We're going to go back in time again to 1965. This book is a 7.0. X-Men, the first appearance of, I could say Ka-Zar. Some people say Ka-Zar. But I go Ka-Zar. This book is a 7.0. And if you look at it very closely, you can see little spine ticks. It looks old, but it's still in pretty decent condition for a book from 1965. The white on the cover still is white-ish. It isn't like yellow or brown or dirty. If we look at the back of the book, little boys, men, my secret new Dynaflex method, they're a little, but if we look beyond the ad, we can see that it's a little yellow, a little off-white. That contributes to the grade of a 7.0. And if we look very carefully inside that 7.0 box, we see that it says off-white to white pages. So that means, I don't know, if we look at the pages themselves, before they put it in the case, they saw that the pages were off-white to almost white, and that affects the grade. Because if this book came off the rack in a newsstand, it would be white pages. This book right here, another classic character, 1991, the first appearance of Deadpool. Newsstand. We talked about Newsstand before. This book was pulled off of a newsstand by someone way back in 1991. They kept it in pretty decent shape, and the grade right now is an 8.5. Again, nothing major as far as spine ticks or marks or anything like that, but also not perfect and pristine. So the fair market value for this book would probably be like $500. This Punisher video game?
Yeah, it looks like a Nintendo game.
That's pretty good.
Nintendo game ad.
Pretty cool,
91, yeah.
Super arcade action. 6th Street Tough Levels. The NES game.
I think that's another reason why I love collecting comics, just because seeing the ads, it really takes you back and
Definitely.
takes you to another time,
Time capsules.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we went from 1991. We're gonna go to 1999.
Oh, this one hurts.
Batman Beyond, great television show. 9.8. I think they made 3 different versions of this book. One was, you could see with the barcode right here. This is not a newsstand. It says direct sales. So that means it was sent directly to a comic book store. There was one that was put out by Six Flags. That one is not as expensive or valuable as this book. And then there was another one with a white box, but nothing inside of it. This one is the rarest, and so the 9.8 sets the value of this book at around $1,300 for the first appearance of Batman Beyond in a comic book, because obviously he was on his cartoon show.
Man, I love this show too. It's such a great
show. Pop-Tarts. Pop-Tarts. Find the golden wrap Pop-Tarts and you might find yourself in a Pop-Tarts commercial.
All right.
Now, this one was hard to figure out. This is 2001. The special 9/11 Spider-Man issue number 36. It was an all-black cover to commemorate the tragedy of 9/11, but David was able to get it signed by 2 incredible people. One is a signature and sketch by John Romita Jr., JR, from the famous Romita family. John Romita Sr. drew Spider-Man for years. John Romita Jr. drew Spider-Man for years, and drew this cool little sketch next to a sketch of the Twin Towers by Scott Hanna. And I think the combination of both of these together is kind of amazing.
Can you talk about the significance of the book just a little bit?
Absolutely. This book was, yeah, if we look here, it was the 9/11 World Trade Center story. This book came out, was printed by Marvel Comics right after the tragedy of 9/11. And again, it was all black. The cover was all black in remembrance of the tragedy of 9/11. And so people, what they often will do is get a signature, a sketch, a remark. But I think this remark is incredibly powerful and obviously appropriate to the book itself. You know, Spider-Man looking at the Twin Towers. Pretty incredible book. This book, because you've got to factor in the signature and the sketch and the signature by Scott Hanna and the sketch, hard to figure out how much it's worth. With all that, at a 9.6 grade, it's in the $300 to $500 range. So we set its value at $400.
Amazing. Man, yeah, for me it was like, cause you know, I was in high school when 9/11 happened, and coming here, moving here, and you know, seeing Freedom Tower, and not, you know, always seeing Twin Towers in movies and stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like Home Alone and Ghostbusters and all that, and even TV shows, like it's an iconic place, but not being able to see it in real life, like it was such a different hit. So when I heard about this comic, I definitely was like, man, I have to get this, like especially moving here, you know, in New York and stuff. And then when I heard about them doing the sketches and stuff, man, I was like, look, I got to get it done, you know?
So you requested...
I requested the Twin Towers by Hanna specifically, and I requested the Spider-Man facing the Twin Towers specifically in my note when I submitted it, yeah.
Absolutely. And so that's another thing that people can do. Sometimes live in person, you can get an artist to sign or do a remark. People call these a remark or a head sketch of a whatever you want on a book. Sometimes, though, you can actually send the book to CGC with notes about what you want, where you want it signed, what color marker you want it signed in, what sketch you want the person to draw. And so I think, David, this, you know, you hit it out the park with this idea of the towers and Spidey looking at the towers. Because again, if someone loves this book and loves this idea, this book might be one of a kind.
Yeah, for sure.
As far as, you know, what was drawn, how it was drawn, and the color that it was drawn in. Like all those little nuances and permutations make a difference when it comes to signatures and sketches.
Amazing.
Keep saying amazing, pun intended.
I know.
And then the last book, speaking of signatures, and again, I feel like we've been jumping around in time. We will go with a classic, which is a modern day classic.
Yeah.
Spawn, 1992. Spawn #1, created and signed by Todd McFarlane in silver. You can. The thing about Spawn was that this book was overproduced. Hundreds of thousands, if not maybe close to 1 million copies were printed. So the value of Spawn #1 is not that great, especially if it's not graded. The 9.8, great. That is a great price, or the 9.8, that is a great grade. But the signature by Todd McFarlane bumps the book up to around a $450 level.
Nice.
The more rare book is the newsstand version, right? If this was a newsstand version, it would be worth even more. But this book is still pretty valuable. If you notice, this is like a comic book ordering system ads here with a lot of the Image books, because this is one of the first Image comics, but a lot of the Image books being advertised for sale. You can see how cheap the books were, because Spawn #1 was $1.95, and if you bought a second one, I think it was $1.75. 8 comic books, which I don't want to drop them. 8 comic books. These 8 books total over $10,000, which is pretty incredible. And like I said, a pretty decent cross section of different comic books, whether it's Marvel or DC, independent or not independent, classic modern books or modern books, and also the venerable classics. You know, any of these can garner a high value. I think though that like the old books are pretty much the ones that kind of stand the test of time. But the books that we have here, Spawn, Spider-Gwen, etc., those are some of the modern classics, and it'll be a matter of time to see whether or not they will stand the test of time and get to the $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 level.
Cool.
We'll see.
Well, yo, I appreciate that. Yeah, we'll see what happens and what we do with these books. But until next time, y'all. Thanks, everybody. I'm actually about to go see my comic buddy, so also tell the camera, how many New York Comic Cons you've been to?
Everyone except the last one.
Everyone?
Everyone. The first one up until, I guess, last year. I didn't go to this year. San Diego Comic Con and Anime Expo. It was good.
It was good? Better than New York? Or?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah. 100%. Well, not 100%. It was better.
I want to go to the
And Anime Expo was 100% better.
I want to go to the Comic Con in Japan.
Yeah.
I want to go to the one in Japan. I hear that's like... Yeah.
That's... Ooh.
One day.
See, we're everywhere. Just nerds everywhere. That's all I'm saying.